Anyway, I should probably stop gushing and just give a warm welcome to
more.
Ruth Lingford, ladies and gentlemen. If you want, yeah.
Okay, I'll stand up and talk. Okay, you see me. Okay, yes, so as Martin said, I was already in my 30s when I went to the Royal College to do animation. Before that, I used to be an occupational therapist working mainly in psychiatry and with the elderly, mentally ill. So no matter how bad animation gets, it's never quite as bad as that. And it can be hard, but at least you don't have to wipe anyone's bottom, you know, so that's a plus. So I think it
unless
really,
you're Jed Haynes.
unless you want to. Yes, so I was actually really lucky because I'm kind of quite clumsy and cack-handed, and when I came out of the Royal College, things were still mainly done on cell, and I was so bad at cell painting and drawing on cell that one place where I worked for a little while, they actually kept my cells as an example of how to do it. They were like the quintessential badly painted cells.
What is this place that kept your cells?
I think I can't, I can't even remember what, it might have been Beatrix Potter, I can't remember what the project was. But anyway, luckily for me, it was just sort of the beginning of computers, and I started working on an Amiga and trying to find a way to work on an Amiga. And the great thing for me about computers is that they do rein in my natural messiness quite a lot. And you know, it's harder to get thumbprints, you know, spill paint over a computer.
No, I've done that.
You've done that. So anyway, just sort of finding a way of working on computers seemed to lead to me finding my own style, which I tried to develop, but is still basically my style. And I always tell people I make feel-bad films because Susie Templeton once said, you know, if you look at live-action films, they're full of death and sex and disaster, and no one complains about those. But if we make those films in animation, people think they're excessively gloomy, but my films are excessively gloomy, I have to say. I was going to start by showing a film about orgasm, which is also a feel-bad film. So that's quite an achievement. So the way this film came about, I'd been working on a documentary. Apart from teaching, what I do, most of my commercial projects have been working on documentary projects. And I'd worked on this one documentary project where they kept changing their mind about what they wanted, so I had some leftover footage. So I was looking for a way of quickly putting this together into a short film. And I had what I thought was a brilliant idea for a soundtrack, which was I was going to interview people and ask them to describe orgasm, because of course that's impossible. And then I would just piece the soundtrack together from all the places where people ran out of words, and all the ums and ahs and the hesitations. Only, of course I was living in Cambridge, Massachusetts, home to Harvard, MIT, you know, big universities. Everyone's super articulate, nobody ran out of words at all. And I had about 20 plus hours of articulate description of orgasm. So I scrapped, you know, I started from scratch and made this 11-minute film.
You lit a cigarette and...
yes. What can I say about this? Just that it's mostly my animation, but 2 other animators actually were good enough to animate their own orgasmic experience for me. So there's a bit that's strata cut that's somebody else's animation, Terra Maya, and there's a bit of, it's very flat, but it's my animation that's also done by someone else, done by an animator called David Lobster. So in a way the film's doomed to failure because it is still kind of an impossible experience to describe accurately. But I had a lot of fun getting that. So should we play that?
Okay.
Teaching at Harvard is really fantastic. And I feel very, very lucky to be there. But lately, I mean, I finished this in 2010, and lately I've been having a little bit of a problem with getting traction on another big project. The teaching is incredibly satisfying, and also I'm having an awful lot of fun there, and as all animators know, fun is the enemy of creativity. So almost as discipline for myself, I've been trying to make some short projects to just keep things flowing a little bit. One of the fun things I've been doing in America, till very recently, I was a backing singer in a rock band, which was just incredible. You know, more fun than is decent at my age. And so I've made a couple of little music videos, one for the band that I was singing with, and the other one for another band that was our drama's band. So shall I show just these two little music videos? Like, they were no money and no budget, but just something to keep going. The first one is called The Ladies' Tree, and this is the band that I was with, and it's usually a bit more rock and roll than this, but this is a song about Joan of Arc. It's a song about the trial of Joan of Arc, and in the trial of Joan of Arc, there was a lot of questions asked of her about the ladies' tree. Did you dance around the ladies' tree? Because in her village there was a tree, and all the young girls used to dance around the tree, and that was just the tradition. But this was used as evidence of her witchcraft. Wrong.
No, I know. Sorry, I'll explain why that happened in a second.
Okay, so this is a song about that's about the ladies' tree, and I was looking for a sort of visual sort of framework, so I was looking at the rider deck of tarot cards, so a lot of the imagery comes from that. Are we ready to show?
I'm going to have to change, unfortunately, I'm going to change the aspect ratio on the TV. Could I just ask you, just to cover while I'm frantically changing things around?
You want me to tap dance? Sure.
No, I was going to say, do you mind, I was about to say I was blown away by Little Death. I was very impressed by Little Death, and do you mind saying how you actually were able to, you said you had all those hours of interview that you threw away and then started again. How did you actually group
well, I threw away the footage that I originally going to use.
How did you choose what to use and what
that
not?
was really tough. I just listened to it and took notes of the bits that seemed good. Unfortunately, some of the really good stuff that was in the interviews wasn't like sound bitesy enough to use. The most interesting thing for me was talking to a male to female transsexual who was bisexual in both genders and had orgasms as a man and as a woman, and was able to talk really illuminatingly about the difference in the experience. Unfortunately, none of that found its way directly into the film because it was, you couldn't take out sort of 20 seconds of it. It would have had to be a 3 or 4 minute section of the film, and this structure didn't support that. And I have thought of maybe making this in another form, so almost making it interactive, so you can maybe organising the tapes into some interactive sound piece. Does anyone have any other questions about the film?
You've taken the title from the French for orgasm.
Yes, the French used petit mort as, for orgasm, but also apparently it was used in England in the 17th century. Little deaths was used in that way.
There were two scenes, one right at the end with the liquidy effect. Was that live action mix, or I want you to give me details of the
Liquidy.
the one that just before the credits came up, symmetric. Like, I thought it was an MRI.
Oh yes, there's an MRI scan. Yes. Yes, luckily, while I was making this film, I had a breast cancer scare. Yeah, no, that's the thing about being an artist. You just use any shit that happens. It's all material. So I had all these MRIs done, and I said to the guy, "Oh, can I keep the pictures?" And he said, "Oh yeah, go down to room B36 in the basement, and I'll give you a DVD of them." So I've got this amazing images. And my friend David, who did the Maya animation, actually rebuilt my breasts in 3D from the scans, which was scary. The problem really is when you haven't got to make a film, you haven't got a big deadline, how do you then keep going? How do you motivate yourselves? That's maybe something we could talk about over many drinks later. And how do you... What's the right balance between living life and making work about life? It's sometimes very hard to do both. One project I did very much want to make, I so enjoyed the interview process in the Little Deaths film, and I felt like I was quite good at it. Like people would say to me, "My God, I've never had a conversation like this before." People would really open up and talk, and it seemed like a really fertile process. So I thought I would like to do a companion film where I got people talking about their religious experience and what that was like. But it turns out that that's really private. That's really dirty to talk about. And I've been so far, really unsuccessful in getting people to talk about it. I've got one fantastic interview from a friend of mine in Cambridge, Massachusetts, he's a nice white boy from Delaware, but he's an ordained voodoo priest. And again, super, super articulate. And he's actually able to articulate the experience of spirit possession, which is fantastic. But all the other interviews I've done, people find it so difficult to actually talk about their subjective religious experience, which surprised me because everybody's religious in America, it seems, but it seems like it's a difficult thing to talk about. And also it's more exotic for me because I know what it feels like to have an orgasm, but I don't, the religious thing is more, I was brought up as an atheist and I actually sing in a church choir, but I'm faking it, It would be nice to know what it's meant to feel like, really. So maybe I will still make that project, but I've just got so discouraged from the difficulty of getting good interviews. But maybe if any of you want to volunteer yourselves, you can come and talk to me afterwards. So just one more little film. It's actually a 1-minute film. I didn't know about the 1-minute festival. And this is just a little scrap of something that I did for myself as a 60th birthday present. I turned 60 in May, and it's kind of a big, I know not many of you in this room are there, but it's kind of something to face.
Captain, do you want to...
Well, I like being over 60, pension credits, travel.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fabulous. I've had more fun since I turned 60 than in the rest of my life put together, I have to tell you. But still one can't help feeling odd about it. This was a piece I actually designed to go in a loop, but you'll just see it through once.
May I just ask before we show it? Your work is all hand drawn. What are you using? What software are you using to create it?
I'm using the most horrible program, which I'm trying to get away from, which is Corel Painter. Does anyone else use Corel Painter? I feel your pain. It's horrible. And the way to go seems to be TV Paint, which really does seem to be much better. And I haven't quite made the jump over, but I'm going to do that very soon. It's like wearing a hair shirt using Corel Painter again, because there's so many things it won't do, or it will kind of mess your work up if you.
If you change something on one frame, it's very likely that it will happen to all.
Yes, it's horrible. It's just,
That's like a religious experience almost.
Yeah, it is. That's kind of bad one. Yeah.
Yes, may I welcome back Ruth Lingford?
Yes. I'm a little more relaxed. Martin
We spiked it as well.
Yes. So I've just Martin chose two of my films to show now. The first one is the first film I made after I left college, first computer film, called What She Wants, which is about sexual fantasy and capitalism. And the other film is Death and the Mother, which we talked a little bit about before. So the first one I think is 4 minutes and the second one is 11 minutes, just so you can pace yourselves.
Okay, fantastic.
That's done on a Amiga with very low res, but in a way it was easier in those days. You kind of had fewer pixels, less choices. You had to kind of just make strong design decisions and couldn't really fiddle about with detail.
Well, I think that's part of its power. It's so raw. And I was thinking during it never occurred to me, but it feels a lot like an Edvard Munch or something. It's like very Northern European about it.
I was looking at German expressionist woodcuts a lot, especially Käthe Kollwitz. Yeah. But also, that whole range of people from that time. I just wanted to check, because you were talking about the ending and that you were saying you found the ending powerful.
Yeah.
And I had a student in Hull, and we had a screening of the film, and afterwards he said, we were discussing why does she give the baby up at the end, and I decided it was because she was bored of the baby. Which is one interpretation.
Is it the same title in the Hans Christian Andersen?
No, in the Hans Christian Andersen it's called The Story of a Mother. And there's also a story in the Grimm's Fairy Stories, which I can't remember what it's called, but it's kind of similar. It's a proto version of that story. One thing that I've been doing just recently, I sublet a room in New York from a graphic novelist called Peter Cooper, who's a very amazing graphic novelist. And he edits and puts out this comics magazine called World War III, and they were doing a death issue, and he asked me whether I would convert Death and the Mother into a graphic novel. And I said, yeah, that'll be easy. Which it isn't. It's such a different form, and I'm kind of more or less dyslexic and illiterate when it comes to graphic novels, but it was a really, really interesting exercise. And I'm very pleased to say that there's some, I'm very proud to be in this because there's some really amazing work in here. And I do have a few copies for sale for £5 each, if you'd like it, but it's got some amazing stuff in here, including a history of hell and something about some experiments that were done using LSD with end-of-life patients. It's something for everybody. As long as you like death. Yeah, and so that's something else that's been keeping me busy. Has anyone got any questions?
You're very confident with human figures. Do you use any reference for that? Do you use live models or?
I've done an awful lot of life drawing. In Death and the Mother, I actually had an actress who worked out some of the poses with me. I did some drawings from life with her. I tend not to use, I don't use rotoscoping, but one thing I have been doing lately in one of the music videos, there's the people fighting, and I was looking at footage of real fights on YouTube and just, pausing them and looking, sort of copying rather than tracing. Because tracing you don't really learn anything, but by sort of stopping video and looking at it, you learn more. And I just think I try to use my own body as reference, just the feeling of not in a mirror, but just the feeling of what it's like to have a body. I think that's an important reference. And I get it wrong, and I do sort of cringe when I look at these, because like there's some bits of animation I'm really quite good at, and others that I'm just so terrible at. And why is it that we all do the things we're terrible at? Like having people walk into the distance and they just get small too quickly. You know that one? And just Sorry, any other questions?
Why did you want to become an animator after the job that you had before? Who inspires you?
Funnily enough, a friend took me to a screening of animation at the London Film Festival. I had no special interest in animation at all. And there were some amazing things in that screening. There was Hedgehog and the Frog by Yuri Neustadt. But weirdly, the film that really inspired me, the film that made me go, oh God, I could do that, was a film by Andy Stavely. I don't know if anyone remembers Andy Stavely. Made a film called Strangers in Paradise at the Royal College of Arts years and years ago. And it's a lovely film, and it's 3D, it's model animation, which is not what I do. But it was all, I used to do a lot of knitting, and these characters were just kind of very tactile and made of fabric. And there was suddenly, an imaginative leap. I do knitting, and I draw, and I could do this. And that was the key moment. That, and I was at art school, and I tried some animation out. I had a little copy stand, and I just tried some. And seeing my drawings move was really magic.
Did you ever make anything that wasn't drawn?
I've never done. I'm very clumsy, as I mentioned earlier, and so the nearest I've got to getting away from drawing was in Little Deaths. There's some bits where I'm sort of dripping bleach on tissue paper under the camera. But if I try and build things, they always fall apart.
There was never like a first knitted Ruth Lingford.
No.
The archives.
No, maybe that's the way to go.
I was just wondering how long it takes you to do these films. Like the very short ones, like pop music videos, and the longer ones, what sort of?
They always, I think animators always lie about how long it takes. It always takes 4 times as long as we say it does, doesn't it? Is that right? It takes so embarrassingly long that you can't even admit it.
How long is
I don't count because it's too depressing.
What sort of length are your deadlines then? If you have a
Well, the music videos, I mean, I wasn't getting paid, so there were no deadlines,
Yeah.
so that's the upside of not getting paid. The others, I mean, I do sometimes work to deadlines, and I can work fast, but basically, films tend to take a year, 18 months, longer. You know, that's how long they, an 11-minute film, 1 to 2 years, I don't know. It's horrible, isn't it? It's terrible. We're all running out of time. It's like it takes too long.
Did you have any help on I missed the whole talk, obviously,
Sorry.
but did you have any help on the last film, on the Channel 4 film? Did you have an assistant?
Which one? The
Death.
Death and the Mother. Yeah, I had a little bit of help. Yeah.
Assistants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also had a narrative advisor, Caroline Leaf.
Mm.
Was that part of the process?
Yeah, no, that was really interesting. It was before I knew her. She now lives in London, obviously, and I know her pretty well. But we would communicate by fax. That's how I know. Those were the days. No, that was really interesting. It's sometimes really hard to, like when you leave college, it's hard to find people who will still kind of teach you and that you can use as a mentor, but Caroline is that.
I think it does show in that, because it sort of because I haven't seen it for so long, but it made me think of Caroline's work, because it's got the similarity of not wanting to fill the screen up fully and only concentrating on the action that you actually need to show. Like, I think it was The Two Sisters, which is an amazing film, isn't it? Where she only uses a small section of the screen. Right, so that maybe, in the conversations, maybe that somehow filters through.
After image thing that you get with paint on glass as well, where you
Yeah.
have the previous frame sort of
Yeah.
goes to the previous frame.
Yeah.
Don't know if that
We
was
should ask her to come.
Well, I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Just then. But I will. I mentioned this to Ruth earlier on, that I was sort of building myself up to. Did I say this out loud earlier on? Yeah, I'm with certain people. I'm kind of really nervous, like the Peter, to ask them. But yeah,
that's the thing about that's what you said about like your first animation festival. Like, to be a world famous animator is still not very famous, is it?
This is true. Actually, going back to that particular experience where I first met Ruth, this was my trial by fire. I got off the plane, I was taken to this kind of indoor picnic that they have at Zagreb every year, and they sat me down, my sort of chauffeur sat me down at a table, and I was sitting opposite Bob Godfrey, and diagonally opposit Raoul Survey, who's a Belgian surrealist animator. He used to be René Magritte's assistant, Paul Delvau's assistant. So I was thinking, fuck, this was, for me at any rate, it was like, dining with gods. So perhaps I just, I'm too shy about these things. But I'll take that as a challenge, and I will endeavour to invite Caroline Leaf sometime soon.
Both of us know her, so you probably see her more often, don't you? So.
Yeah, I'm sure she.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice to know.
There wasn't anything else, unless there's any more questions.
I wanted to ask how much do you think the work that you did before you got into animation informs your work, or did it inform
I think certainly my early work, I think I felt I had a lot to make work about. I'm really quite grateful that I didn't go straight into animation, straight from school or something, because I don't know what I would have made work about, really. So yeah, like I say, nothing's wasted, whatever you've got, whatever experience you've got.
And do you see that with your students? If you do have mature students, or are they mostly coming straight from
At the moment, I'm teaching a lot of very young students, undergraduate at Harvard, and they're very keen and very enthusiastic, and often there tends to be a shortage of stuff to make work about. But actually, if I could talk just for a few minutes about my Harvard students, because I'm quite excited about them at the moment. So Harvard is an amazing institution, but before I was at Harvard, I taught at the Royal College of Art and the National Film School, and both of which are postgraduate institutions, and both of which have the most fantastic students who are completely in love with their medium and committed to it and are full-time attentive to it. So to go from that to a setting where students were kind of dabbling in animation really and not so serious about it, that was kind of tough, and also the students were a lot younger. But this last semester I did have a couple of fantastic students, one of whom is a Romanian physics postgraduate student who made an amazing thing. I can't show it because it's on the internet, but
what's his
have
name?
Smartphones. His name's Bogdan Bintu. If you look it up, and he's made a film called Cylinder, which is describing a world where a cylindrical world and what happens to the light in it. It's just kind of makes your brain kind of fold in on itself. It's so great. And another student who's from the Media Lab at MIT, who's called Xiao Xiao. And her website is Xiao squared X.
How do you spell that?
XIAOU, of course. And she is a computer programmer and a pianist, and she has a player piano, one of those that plays itself. And so she's programmed, and she came to learn animation, and so she has basically she has these figures. She has above the keys there's a projection, and there's figures walk up and down and play the music, and it's so beautiful. And there's something else she did where she will play the notes, and animation will sort of come out of the notes, and then it'll fall down and it'll play other notes. So I mean, just amazingly brilliant.
But she generated it with the sort of computer. She made the computer do the animation. So
she's done the animation, but the frames that come up are controlled by the computer.
That's what I mean. So she's actually used a piece of software to generate the animation.
No.
She hasn't.
The animation is hand-drawn animation.
Okay. She hasn't done.
She's programmed it. No.
Okay, she didn't.
No, and it's really beautiful. So the plus side of teaching animation at Harvard is you get people from all different disciplines who are often quite brilliant and always work really hard, and they're using animation for things you haven't thought of. I teach a course called Animating Science, and that brings scientists and artists together. It's really exciting. So I've got no complaints about it. I probably have the best job in the world.
How did you get the job? How did you make contact with Harvard?
Don't tell him.
I don't know. I just got lucky. I don't know. I think Caroline Leaf might have put in a word for me because she taught at Harvard.
It's all right, I'm not trying to get tips. What I'm wondering is, did you go to Harvard? Did they contact you?
They contacted me. Yes, I got, when I was teaching at the film school, I got an email saying, would you like to come and teach at Harvard for 1 year? Some of you will remember these people. And Sarah Cox, who was there, said, oh Ruth, that's great, that'll look great on your CV. And Paul Bush said, bit late for that, but it'll look great on your obituary.
Yeah, I'm not inviting him to animation.
That'll be very funny. I just did get very lucky. But I mean, American universities are the place to teach, not American art schools, which pay no money at all. But American universities kind of do have a commitment to research. You know.
So is the work that you're producing at the moment actually in view of publications?
Yes.
Is it, it's your academic?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
they're in fact, if they're sort of incubating your work as an artist.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
How many days a week do you get to work on your own stuff?
Well, at the moment, I'm now teaching full time. I can't even talk about this because you'll just hate me so much. I think I'm going to say that. No, all the people I work with behave as if they're working down a coal mine, but it's all a pretense, so people don't hate them because it's incredibly cushy. And I have a teaching assistant who's brilliant. It's just so good.
So you work full time, but when do you sit down to do the animation?
Well, I work full time, which means I teach 2 4-hour studio classes and 1 2-hour
A week.
lecture class, yeah, and then see students individually a bit and go to a few meetings.
Did you
So
find
it's- I told you you'd hate me.
Yeah, so you can kind of, if you pack it in carefully, you could do it in a day.
No, you can't. Well, no, you could do it in. No, you do it in 2.5
Yeah.
days. You could do it, yeah, 3 days.
Did you find it a challenge moving from England to America?
The language was different. No, it's kind of weird going to America because they just have this weird fetishization of everything English. So like everything you say is really funny and really clever, and it's kind of hard coming back here and. No, but they're great. But they're also. I mean, I went with a load of preconceptions about what Americans were like and how kind of crass and stupid they were. And some of them are, but generally there's a sweetness and a generosity of spirit there that has really, really disarmed me, and I really do love it there. Although I will just tell you the story. The first week I was in America, I got on a bus, and I was talking to the bus driver, and this guy heard me talk, and he said, "Oh, you're not from around here. Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from London." He said, "Oh, where's that?" So it's in England. He said, "Oh, England, yeah. Oh, yes, yeah, you have fog there, don't you? And cobbled streets." He was totally serious. And you live in cottages, don't you? Yes, I know about England because I saw a film about it. I said, "Oh, what film was that?" He said, "Oh, I can't remember what it was called, but it had Wallace and Gromit in it." I think I'll finish there.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Ruth Lingford. As Ruth said, she has some comic books with her, which she'll be able to sell you at the knockdown rate of £5.
Yes.
Oh, special price tonight, only £5 each. I think we should have a very, very quick break, and then we will come back with John and Sheila. So one more time, thank you very much to Ruth Lingford.